Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3 Iron, and today we are asking the question and having a discussion. This was prompted by a discussion that I had with some guild buddies and some friends about being king or, CEO for a day, as it were, and throwing around the question, what would you do? What would you do if you were the CEO or the king of PoE or the queen of PoE, as it were, for the day? If GGG came to you and asked you, hey, I want you to change one thing in Path of Exile, what would you do? So I came up with a list of questions for us to discuss today. Of course, there are timestamps above my slightly balding forehead, and you can, of course, like, subscribe, and ding the bell if you enjoy videos just like this one and would like to be notified about future videos like this. So first off, the first question, maybe, GGG hires you and brings you on as king or queen for the day and says, hey, we'd like for you to add something to the game. We really want your ideas to be implemented into the game, but we need something added. Something is missing from Path of Exile. So what would you add? What is that something that you would add? Maybe would you add like a specific league mechanic? Would you want to see a specific sort of gameplay mechanic introduced through a league? Maybe it comes in with its own master, maybe it comes in with its own side area in a similar vein to like Delve or Incursion, Bestiary. Maybe it would come in and it would be something rather simple and still substantive, like maybe a Breach League or Abyss League or Harbinger, something where there's added monsters to the map, but there's maybe some additional mechanics that are going on in the background. Maybe you'd want to add like a piece of art or an MTX or other kinds of graphical additions. One of the biggest, most upvoted and celebrated memes in all of Path of Exile, whether that's on the discussion forums, whether that's on Reddit, or whether that's just on Twitch and on YouTube, was actually when they added stairs to Lionize Watch to get down from the beach all the way up to the waypoint. Like, so many people were excited when those stairs were added. It was incredible. And that's simply just a piece of art. I mean, yes, it's included in the game, so yes, I guess it's got a mechanical purpose, but really it was a piece of art. The updated water and texture effects that they've been adding over the last couple of months really are gorgeous, and especially in the Brine King's Reef, makes it look really, really nice. But is there a piece of art that you want added to the game? In Act 5, when you go back to Oriath, there's just a lot of really dark, but also really well done art in the ruined courts and in the fallen courts and in the fallen Oriath Square, as well as, of course, the cathedral rooftop and on the way to Katava. There's just a lot of really beautiful art assets that are there. So maybe you'd want to add an art style or an art flavor. Maybe it'd be something as simple as, hey, I want a purple league, or hey, I want a green league. So what would you add if you had to add a piece of art in MTX or a graphical edition? Maybe it'd be a boss fight or a monster encounter. Think for a moment if you could, design an encounter that almost everyone could play. Like if the person who designed Hillock was able to do an AMA, that would be actually really cool, because the vast majority of the players that play Path of Exile, of course, a lot of players don't make it through that very first actual Strand encounter. A lot of people just shut the game down right away, believe it or not. But people who do make it to Lionize Watch, they have to fight Hillock. So designing the Hillock fight, while it's not like the sexiest fight in the world, don't hear what I'm not saying, it's still something that a lot of players have to get through and a lot of players develop familiarity with. So maybe would you design a boss fight? Would it be an end game boss fight? Would it be an act boss? Would it be one of the fallen gods of Oriath that maybe would provide a passive point or a quest option as you're leveling through the story? Maybe it would be a specific monster that you would want added to the game. There's a lot of different types of monsters in the game, and a lot of types of monsters that aren't in the game. You'll notice in Path of Exile there aren't the traditional, orc and goblin style monsters. A lot of undead, a lot of corrupted human things, but not necessarily a whole lot of classical fantasy creatures, with, of course, Delve. The Delve dragon being added is probably the most classic fantasy creature that's been recently added to Path of Exile. So if you were going to add something, would it be a boss fight, a monster encounter? What would that be? Maybe if you were going to get to add an item, a div card, or a currency, what would it be? I, just being who I am and enjoying Path of Exile and all of the different economic aspects of Path of Exile, I would probably add a currency type of some kind. I'm not quite sure yet what that would be, because I'm caught in between a couple of different options. One of the currency types that I would like to add would be a currency type that would actually allow you to interact with vendors and get random things back. So kind of like how we've got the mod item sells for much more to a vendor. I think that would be really cool to actually have as kind of like a random gambling kind of currency that you could use, that would essentially allow you to trade it plus an item back to a vendor and then get something back. Maybe it would be a divination card. Maybe it would be a unique item. Maybe it would just be an item in general where it's a rare type of item. I've heard a lot of people talk about pants. A lot of people talk about crossbows. A lot of people talk about spears. Some people have even mentioned like scabbards for swords or cloaks, if cloaks could be an additional item slot. But that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty interesting. What about if it was a class, an entire class or ascendancy? If you could add an entire character to the game of Path of Exile, what would it be? We've already got a lot of different classic archetypes. We've got, of course, the Necromancer. We've got your Trapper. We've got your Assassin. We've got your bow and arrow character. We've got your melee gladiator style character. We've got your champion style character, sword and board. We've got your thick tank style character. We've got the fire god totem guy. Like, there's a lot of different stuff that we've got already in the game. We've got your hybrid, that's a scion. One suggestion that I had from one buddy, from Beckett, who many of you know, he was the guy that introduced me to PoE. One suggestion from him was actually to have a character that was a true hybrid, but wouldn't necessarily let you have their own ascendancy tree, but maybe they would actually just get to pick any particular points from anyone's ascendancy. So kind of like the Scion, where they get to pick from a wide diversity of other ascendancies. They don't have anything specially crafted for them. But as they're picking something that's wide and diverse, they have no limits in doing that. So imagine if you could go and grab any ascendancy point, regardless of where it is on the tree, regardless if it's, you know, typically hidden behind like Uber Lab or Merc Lab, if you could simply grab that, and maybe you had 4 total points. So you wouldn't necessarily get ascendancy points every time you ascended. You'd only get it every other ascendancy. So you'd get it at the end of your Cruel Ascendancy, you'd get 2 points, and at the end of your Uber Lab, you'd get 2 points. So you'd only have a 4-point ascendancy, but you'd get to choose and mix and match them from anywhere. You'd essentially get to spend them from anywhere. So I thought that was an interesting idea. Certainly it's overpowered. Certainly it's broken. Certainly there's lots of different combos to pick up. But if you got to add something as a class or ascendancy, what would that look like for you? And of course, there's an all-time requested feature, the auction house. We did a whole big discussion on this last league, and that'll be, of course, linked down below in the video description. But maybe you'd want to add an auction house. Maybe you'd want to refine trade because you enjoy trade, you enjoy, with quotation marks, trade now, and you wish that it could be better inside Path of Exile. Maybe you would add a new act or a new story element. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, maybe in 4.0 PoE is going to release, you know, a bunch of new acts, or maybe there will be like a whole other campaign that'll get added into maps. I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that right now with Synthesis, where there's more story progression and more backstory, learning about the Elder, learning about Shaper, learning about Zana. But maybe you'd want to add another act, or maybe you'd want to in some way add to the story and add to the story elements of the game. Well, moving on to question 2. Would you remove or replace something? So let's pretend that GGG has made you king or CEO or queen for the day, and they say, okay, that's great. We loved your suggestion about what to add. Now we need to take one thing out. And you say, well, I want to remove this mechanic, or I want to replace this mechanic. What would you remove or replace mechanically from Path of Exile? Maybe you would remove or replace the way that Life Leech works and the way that Volpact works. I know a lot of people would want to go back to the days where Volpact was just instant leech and see what the game is like then. Bunch of different broken builds that would all of a sudden become viable once again, but maybe that'd be something that you would want to remove or replace from back in the old days. Maybe you'd want to remove or replace a class or ascendancy. Maybe you simply just hate a character, or you feel like a character is kind of out of place, or it's out of tune with other options. Maybe you simply look at an ascendancy, a particular ascendancy, and go, you know what, there's nothing wrong with the passive tree, there's nothing wrong with itemization, there's nothing wrong with the player base, there's just something wrong with this character as it is, and we need to remove it, replace it, and go from there. Maybe you would want to remove or replace a unique item. So maybe there's a unique item in the game that you're looking at and you're going, yeah, you know what, this is a great unique item. It fits a niche, but because of the numbers or because of the mechanics now or because of other new unique items that have come out, this item is now obsolete, or it's just a victim of straight up power creep. So what item would you remove or try to replace? Would you remove an act? Maybe you'd want to make the story campaign a little bit shorter. I've actually had several conversations with people who have said, you know what, I would enjoy PoE more if I could go back to the way that things were when the game was divided up into 3 different difficulties and you played through 4 acts 3 times before you got to maps. I've chatted with several different players that have played longer than I have, and they're all of that mindset of, hey, acts 5 through 10 is cool, it's great that GGG did it, but we are used to and have enjoyed a hallmark of the ARPG genre, replaying through content and developing familiarity with it. So maybe removing acts 5 through 10 and going back to the way that PoE used to be. Maybe that'd be something that you would remove or replace. Would you remove or replace a skill? Maybe you just are looking right now. We've seen what the spell changes in 3.6 have done to making spells and skills related to spell casting, support skills, more viable. Maybe you'd want to replace or simply remove a skill that you're like, you know what? This skill, it doesn't really serve a purpose. It's not really unique. It's not really niche. For me, and I'm just at the very risk of taking whatever criticism y'all want to throw at me, feel free to make fun of me if you'd like. I look at Reeve and Cleave and Lacerate, and I'm like, okay, like I personally, this is not an indictment on the mechanics or on the design of GGG. I personally, simply as a player, don't look at those 3 skills and go, these 3 skills are unique skills that are individualized and I want to build an entire build around each of these skills. I look at them and I go, they're all kind of the same. They've all got different mechanics. I am aware that all of them are different skills. Nonetheless, I look at them and I go, if I could replace or remove or condense or change something and I had to do that, maybe those skills would be the things that I would replace or remove. Question number 3. You are the king, the queen, the CEO of PoE for a day. So would you expand PoE in some way? Maybe you'd propose additional games, maybe an expansion of PoE, like maybe PoE 2 or PoE Battle Royale, which we saw was wildly successful last April Fools. Or maybe you'd want to see PoE enter the trading card space. I think that would actually be really cool to have a dungeon crawler kind of trading card game. I think that would be fun. I've played a couple of them. I play a lot of different board games. And so I think it would be really, really exciting to see PoE as a trading card game. I'm not sure what that would look like. I have no idea about the mechanics or the layout or the theming, how you would do it. I just know that, right, the Witcher series did that, and now they've got Gwent as an entire spin-off game, and that's really, really cool and really, really fun. I know that Magic the Gathering is a very, very fun game. I know that Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!, even Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Star Trek have all had their own trading card games. So for those of you that have enjoyed that style and that kind of genre and you enjoy PoE, maybe you'd like to see PoE jump into the trading card realm. Maybe you would propose regular community events like sponsored races that maybe would give away in-game items. They used to do that in PoE all the way back towards the beginning of PoE's early history. Or maybe they would sponsor PvP events. A lot of different games have PvP events. Depending on the type of game, these are oftentimes less popular than other mainstays of the game, right? Just killing monsters and crafting items. But nonetheless, maybe this is one of the things that you would do if you were in charge of PoE. You would expand PoE into regular community events. Right now, in the midst of Synthesis League, a lot of people are excited that they've announced that there's going to be a month-long event towards the end of Synthesis League, and we're not going to get in this particular discussion into all of the pros and cons about Synthesis League. We've had plenty of videos and plenty of discussions on that, and I'm sure there will be more to come in the coming weeks and days, but maybe you would like to see something like that, where there's a regular development cycle that allows for flashback leagues or mayhem leagues or races or PvP events that offer special maybe ladder privileges or ladder access to certain people that have climbed to certain heights on the PvP ladder. Maybe you'd like to create a PoE webcomic. Maybe you'd like to change the medium of PoE and you'd like to watch or read a webcomic or an animated series about your favorite exiles in Rayclast. Or maybe you'd like to see it as an HBO series because it would be really, really violent. And so the only way to do it right would to be on some sort of alternative platform like HBO that could just show as much gore as it wanted to. I mean, for crying out loud, think about Paide's experimentations and all the dead bodies and guts and blood. And oh my goodness. And when Malachi explodes, like that would be incredible to see in an animated series or even in a webcomic or in an HBO, live action sort of thing. That would be incredibly gruesome and incredibly cool to see. So maybe you'd want to see PoE expanded in some way. Maybe you'd want to see PoE mobile. Oh, I'm not touching that one. Maybe you would. Maybe you would. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Maybe that's how you would expand PoE. But how would you expand PoE? Feel free to drop us a comment down below and let us know. Thanks so much for watching. You can drop a comment into the discussion down below detailing what you would do if you could add, if you could remove or replace or expand PoE in some way. So thanks so much for your comments. Thanks so much for watching. I really enjoy all of the discussions that we have here in the G3 community, and I enjoy all of your participation and wonderful comments and feedback as well. So thanks once again to all of our Patreon supporters and to everybody for watching, and I hope that today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you right after you leave us a comment about how you would add, change, or in some way expand PoE.
Nice patrons, yes, good patrons. They're so kind and supportive.
I can't believe you watched that thing. That was a good job. You did it. You got through the whole video. Yay!